footage of you casually fishing your mosque out of the dirty bushes.
I'm just gonna wear it down and then throw it away. Even Snow White has to be safe in these COVID times. Okay.
This has been a PSA from your Disney princess.
Hi, hello. My name is Malice, one half of the niw&malice team, and welcome back to our channel. So if you're new to our channel, you might not know that I'm actually a kindergarten teacher in South Korea. So since Halloween is mostly an American holiday, although over the past few years it really has started to pick up steam in other countries, it's usually my job as the foreign teacher to impart the wonders of this spooky season upon impressionable youngsters, which is a job that I take incredibly seriously. So over the years, I've dressed as Anna from Frozen, a mermaid, a witch, etc. But this year I wanted to try something new. I need a costume that all of my students would for sure recognize. And since I have this shortish dark hair this year, I thought that Snow White would be a perfect fit. So my parameters when playing this project were that I wanted to be comfortable while I was at work and teaching my kids and doing Halloween-y things. And I also wanted something that I could make with thrifted materials, or at least things that I had on hand at home. So if you watch our videos, you might remember that in my pom-pom trim tutorial, I went out to Guri to do some errands. But what I didn't mention at the time was that I was going to a Goodwill out there. But of course, this Goodwill turned out to be like in the sticks. Like it was literally next to a field. We thought when we were walking there that we had definitely gone too far and we were on a farm. So I didn't actually take any footage in the store because by the time we actually got there, Zell and I were completely exhausted and we're using all of our energy just to look around. But at the time, what I was looking for was a royal blue cardigan and anything yellow with a lot of material that I could make a skirt out of. So I ended up not actually being able to find that royal blue cardigan that I wanted, but I did actually find this oversized, thin knit royal blue top that I thought would be perfect. I knew this one would work because it had a lot of extra material that I needed to make those signature puff sleeves. So for the skirt, I was really hoping that I could just find a yellow pre-made skirt, or at least to find yellow curtains, yellow tablecloth, even white curtains or tablecloth so that I could dye it. But actually, in Korea, it's really hard to thrift things like that. I know in America and probably in the UK and Europe as well, you can go to a thrift store and find all kinds of things. Sheets, curtains, tablecloths. But actually in Korea, you can't really find stuff like that. I guess because thrifting is kind of like a new thing here, or it's definitely not as mainstream. So I ended up biting the bullet and just ordering some yellow satin material instead. So if you actually take a good look at Snow White's skirt in the movie, it has a really nice flare to it, but it doesn't actually look like a full circle skirt, at least to me. And because I was going to be at school, moving around, we do a lot of sitting on the floor, I didn't want to have any more extra material than I absolutely needed. So I ended up making a half circle skirt as a good compromise. Now the color of the skirt in the original 1938 Disney movie was probably more of like a cream or a light yellow, but over the years the merch and the promo shots have definitely transformed into more of a bright yellow color. And since that's kind of what she's more known for, I decided to go with the bright yellow instead of the cream. I'm not going to go too much into how I made the skirt because there's plenty of tutorials online for how to make full, half, and 1/4 circle skirts. But the most important thing is how to do the calculations. Now, I always use the same website. I'll put a link in the description below for the website that I use for how to calculate your waist radius. So basically, you just measure your waist and put that number into the website, and it will give you all the little mathy numbery bits that you need. So I use the website to calculate my waist radius, and then I transfer those markings onto my fabric. I I knew I wanted to have a long skirt, so I just made it as long as the fabric would allow, and I made the bottom hem markings the same way that I made the waist radius markings. So after cutting all the material out, all I needed to do was to make a normal waistband, put in the zipper, and hem up the bottom. So the top was actually where all the creativity came in. I knew pretty much from the beginning that I wanted to make 2 separate pieces instead of a dress. So in addition to that blue knit top that I thrifted, in terms of materials, I also needed some red material. I had an old red shirt that I had gotten secondhand from a friend a few years ago, and I had poorly attempted to add a heart cutout into it in the top, and that made it pretty hard to give it to someone else, so I decided that it would be perfect to give it a second life in this project. So in addition to that yellow material that I bought for the skirt, I ended up buying some yellow bias tape for closing up the bottoms of the sleeves and also to hem the bottom of the bodice. So I grabbed a t-shirt from my closet that I liked the fit of, and I just traced those dimensions onto that blue material. In the original costume, the neckline is actually quite low, but I decided to preserve the original neckline of that blue shirt that I got for 2 reasons. One, because it saved me some extra work of having to close up the top, but also because I knew I was going to be wearing it to school and I was going to be bending over and working all day, and I just wanted a higher neckline for that purpose. So after those bodice pieces were cut and assembled, that left the sleeves as the main part left to construct. So I actually did some research online and found there's a few different ways that DIYers choose to construct these sleeves. The first is to cut out that kind of teardrop shape out of the red material and sew it on top of a normal blue sleeve. Second is that people will cut slits in a blue puffy sleeve so that the second red sleeve can show through from underneath. But I chose to go with a third option. It essentially requires you to cut alternating panels of blue and red fabric and then pleat the blue parts over top of the red, so that it kind of looks like the red pieces are peeking through from under the blue. I won't say that I regret this decision exactly. I mean, I love the way the sleeves come out, and I think that of the 3 options, to me at least, it comes out looking the most impressive, I guess, or sturdy. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it's definitely a lot of work. I definitely wanted to give up halfway through, but in case you want to replicate this method, I will impart my wisdom upon you. So I took a normal short sleeve pattern and I cut it into vertical sections. I then spread these pieces out on a different sheet of paper so that they were evenly spaced and glued them down. I made a connective marking at the top so that when all sewn together, it would make one singular sleeve. I then made sure to mark which pieces were supposed to be blue and which were red, and also numbered each of them so I could keep straight which order they went in. I then cut all the sections out again so that I had many small sections. I then used these sleeve patterns to cut out the red and blue material with a rotary cutter. However, this was before I bought my cutting mat, so it was definitely slow going. Once all of these fabric pieces were finally cut out, I was able to pin them together. The red was pinned to the blue and the blue to the red, and so on and so forth until it made one continuous long piece. Then I just sewed all these pieces together. Once the sleeves were all one piece, I pleated the blue parts over top of the red parts so that along the top edge, all that you could see was the blue. So one thing that I can't actually explain to you is how to draft and cut the red pieces so that they fold really nicely under the blue pieces. I don't know if this is because I'm bad at math or if it's actually really that hard, but no matter how I figured to cut the red pieces out, they just didn't suit going under the blue pieces. So the only thing I can think of, if I were to do this again, which I definitely would not, but for your purposes, if you decide to do it, the only thing I can think to do is to cut the red pieces much longer than they need to be at the very top, and then pleat the blue pieces on top and cut the extra parts of the red pieces off. That's the only thing I can think to do. So once I sewed the pleats down, I fit the sleeves into the armholes. I actually had to gather the sleeves a little bit at the top, right up here, so that it would properly fit into the armhole, but that just adds to the puff factor, so it's for the best. So with the sleeves finally complete, I very poorly sewed bias tape around the bottom edge, cuff, whatever this part of the sleeve is called, and along the bottom of the bodice. So the final step was to fashion her red bow out of a red headband that I had and some thin red ribbon. Now there's a lot of ways that you can do this. If you really want to, you could just tie a normal red ribbon around your head. That's easy enough, and I'm sure it would come out looking fine. I knew that I wanted to be able to put it on and take it off depending on how comfortable it was and what the situation was at work. So I decided to use a red headband instead. Now for me, I only had some thin red ribbon, but if you actually look in the movie, she has a very nice, lush red ribbon. So to mimic that, I used several lengths of red ribbon to kind of mimic that fullness. I wanted to be able to reuse this red headband later on, so instead of gluing the ribbon down, I decided to just fit it over top of the red headband and then sew it down with as many stitches as it took so that it wouldn't fall off. And that was pretty much a wrap on Snow White. So all that was left to do was to grab my poison apple and head up to the roof to do some reveal shots. So I hope you enjoy those, and until next time, bye!
I'm not red.